Well, I'm certainly not an expert at YouTube. I'm only about a year into it, and I don't have it all figured out. But I have learned something along the way that I think is maybe worthwhile sharing with you. So if you've over 40 and been thinking about starting something meaningful, whether it's just another project, whether it's maybe trying to create some content on YouTube, there's a good chance that you've already talked yourself out of it, not because you can't do it, but because you feel like you've waited too long for it to matter. So we often confuse late for being irrelevant. Starting earlier often means that you were guessing, maybe you even acting out of context. Whereas if you started late, or what you maybe considered late, is that you now have an understanding. You can actually see the patterns in your life that had meaning, and then you can know now what matters and what doesn't matter. So this perspective doesn't show up at the beginning. It just shows up after you've been through some time. So think of it this way: my younger self, if I thought my younger self would listen. Just think about that. Just think about some of the change from that. So for some people, what they have to share isn't a big idea or even a polished system. It was a mistake that they learned along the way, or it was a process they finally figured out after doing it years in the wrong way. So you don't need to be an expert. You just need to be honest about what you've learned, because there's somebody out there who still needs that information. And to be honest, for a long time, I thought the tools were the barrier. I thought things like AI were complicated and meant for people who already knew how to code or within that field. So what I discovered instead was that their principles never changed, only the tools did. AI isn't replacing thinking, it's just about using it to clarify things for us. AI can be conversational. It helps to organize our ideas and reduce the distance between knowing something and actually doing something about it. So in a lot of ways, the tool finally caught up with the way experienced people were thinking. So waiting did not make you erased. Experience isn't outdated. It's just been drowned out by all the noise that we have around us today. And there's real value in hearing someone who isn't trying to rush anything to prove. So if you've lived long enough to learn something the hard way, you didn't miss your moment in a position to use it well. You don't have to answer this publicly, but just think about it. Waiting did not make you smaller. It gave you perspective. Now, one thing that helped me put all this in perspective was realizing that every generation is living through something completely new. But when you step back, what actually repeats isn't the correction. There's always been moments where the tools move faster than we knew how to use them. That happened during the industrialization. It also happened during all the information age, and now it's happening again with AI. So the principles don't disappear during these moments, they just get drowned out, and then over time they resurface. That's how it's always works. Tools accelerate, principles endure, and then wisdom is what carries things forward after the overreach settles. So if you've lived long enough to learn something the hard way, you didn't miss your moment. You're just finally in a position to use it well. So you don't have to answer this publicly, but it's worth thinking about. Waiting didn't make you irrelevant. It just gave you perspective. And this perspective is what this world needs today.